Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Punaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaste. Howdy y'all, and welcome to this philosophical quest. My name is Brad and I'll be your guide on this quest. And I just began by chanting this mantra from the Taittiriya Upanishad. So the Taittiriya Upanishad is at least 2,600 years old, and this mantra is certainly at least that old, probably much older than that. So in other words, for thousands of years, philosophy teachers and philosophy students have been reciting these words together. It's a traditional way in India to begin studying philosophy. And the reason is, right, it's typically recited together, teacher and student. In fact, the word together, Saha, is repeated 3 times in the mantra. And 4 of the first 6 words are together and us, right? Sahana vavatu, sahano bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahe. Saha means together, you and I, teacher and student, student and student. Let us together be protected. Sahana vavatu. Let us be protected by what we're learning. Knowledge is a kind of power, right? With knowledge and wisdom comes the power that we have to protect ourselves from this dangerous, scary world in which we're in, where lots of people will try to take advantage of us and do all sorts of things, right? People trying to deceive us and take advantage of us. Knowledge and wisdom is a kind of power that we can use to protect ourselves and to protect those around us that we love, right? To protect us from all sorts of, from being misled, from being deceived, from being harmed in all sorts of ways, right? So let this learning, this knowledge that we are gaining together, let us be protected by that. Let it be something that protects us, right? Not just learning for the sake of learning, but learning to protect ourselves. Because knowledge is power and it helps us to protect ourselves. Sahana vavatu, sahano punaktu. Puna is like food, nourishing, right? Eating. So let this knowledge that we're gaining, let it be nourishing to our minds, certainly, right? These new ideas that come in, these conversations that we have with one another, let it spark new thoughts in us. Let us nourish our minds and give us a richness of thoughts and diversity of thinking and that sort of thing, right? So let it be nourishing to our minds, but also let it be nourishing to our hearts and nourishing to our souls, right? Knowledge isn't just something for the mind, it's something that helps us to understand ourselves and our place in this world. That's what philosophy is all about, right? And philosophy, even the word philosophy, means the love of wisdom, right? So it carries that sense of love that is nourishing, that nourishes our hearts and our souls and our spirits, right? So together, let us be protected by what we're learning, and together, let us be nourished intellectually and spiritually and otherwise from this knowledge and wisdom and discourse that we have with one another. Sahaviryam karavavahe. So together, let our learning be viryam. Viryam is like a hero, right? Like Wonder Woman or like Iron Man or Hanuman, or right, a hero, somebody who doesn't just just sit around all day reading books, but somebody who takes what they know and takes the knowledge and the truth that is power, right, and they use it heroically to karavavahe, to transform the world. Kara means making something, like carving with your hands. It has this very tangible, like hands-on sort of meaning, right? So karavavahe, making something for the benefit of others, right? So let us take this knowledge, let's be heroic in our learning, not be afraid to learn something new, not be afraid to learn something that might challenge our preconceived ideas or our preconceived biases or those kind of things. Not be afraid to learn something that might challenge us to think differently, right? But instead go in heroically and bravely to learn new things, and then take that knowledge and wisdom that we gain from these ancient voices and from the voices around us through our discourse with one another, and let's use it to heroically transform the world around us, right? For the benefit of others, not just for ourselves, but to make the world a better place than the way we found it, which shouldn't be too hard because this world is pretty. Anyway, Tejasvina Vadi Tamasu. Tejas is light, right? Light, goodness, the light side, right? Not the dark side, not evil and darkness and those kind of things. But let our learning be filled with Tejas. Let it be filled with light, positivity, good things, right? And leading towards the light, leading towards positive, good energy and those sorts of things. So Tejasvina Vadi Tamastu. Vadi means Vadi is like happiness, joy, fun, right? It should be something fun. It should be enjoyable. It should be something that we enjoy doing, right? And we learn better when we're having a good time. We learn better when we're in positive energy and that sort of thing. So let our learning be filled with light, hope, goodness, and let it be filled with joy and happiness and fun, right? But also, tamas. Tejasvinavadi tamastu. Tamas is passion, right? Let us not just learn something because we're trying to pass some bullshit test or get some sort of grade or get some credential in life or whatever. That's not what learning is about, right? But let's be passionate about what we're learning, and let's take this knowledge and wisdom, let's embrace it, let's pursue this learning passionately, right? And let's be passionate about what we learn, because that's the only way that we're going to heroically transform the world, right? So let our learning be nourishing, protecting, be filled with light, positivity, joy, and passion, right? So that we can heroically transform the world. Ma vidvishavahe. Ma means never at all in any way. Never let there be any vid. Vid means like bad. It's a bad word, right? Bad. Let there never be any bad words, any bad feelings, any bad tension, hostility, animosity, enmity. Let none of that come between us, right? When we're learning philosophy, when we're studying truth, goodness, ethics, all these sort of things, we are all different people. We're going to come at them from differing perspectives with right? We're all unique. So it only stands to reason that we're going to see things from differing perspectives. In fact, that's the whole point of having discourse and dialogue with one another, is so that we can learn. Car passing. So that we can learn from one another and gain, new perspectives, learn from one another. So the fact that we have differences of perspective, that we have differing understandings of ourselves and the world around us, is the whole point of studying philosophy, right? Let that not ever translate into bad feelings or hostility or tension, right? So we're going to have differing perspectives, but let those disagreements or those differing perspectives, don't let them turn into bad words, bad feelings, animosity towards one another. Don't let it turn into hostility or something like that, right? There shouldn't be any of that between teacher and student, between student and student, right? It's contrary to the whole idea of philosophy, as this endeavor that's filled with light, hope, positivity, joy, and passion, right? So passion is good, but if that passion turns into animosity and tension, then we're not going to heroically transform the world. We're just going to butt heads and create more tension, which isn't going to cause any sort of real transformation in ourselves or those around us. The mantra then begins with this, what's called the Shanti mantra, this little Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, which is, Shanti just simply means peace, right? Peace. And it's repeated 3 times. Why is it repeated 3 times? Well, this philosopher my expertise is in this philosopher Adi Shankaracharya, this 8th century philosopher. And he talks about this, and he says, why is Shanti repeated 3 times in the Shanti mantra? He says, well, there could be a lot of reasons why, but one of the reasons why is because a human person is complex, right? We have bodies, we have minds, we have hearts and souls, right? So in order to do philosophy well, we need to have a peace in our bodies. If we're concerned about our safety, if we're concerned that somebody's threatening us or we're under attack, right, at home, or if we're hungry, then we can't think straight, right? So we have to have a peace in our bodies, let our bodies be nourished and healthy. Only then can we clear our minds in order to do things like philosophy, right? So let there be a peace a peacefulness, a tranquility, a calmness in our bodies. That's the first Shanti. Second Shanti, let there be a peace and tranquility in our minds, right? And here, the Shankara uses the example of the still waters of a pond, right? Or a lake or something like that. So if you notice here, hopefully the camera is picking this up, but you can see in the calm, still waters of the pond, you can see the trees and even the clouds and the birds and things that are flying over it and that are in the background. You can see them reflected in those still waters, right? So in a similar way, following the metaphor, right, you want your mind to be calm and peaceful so that it can reflect these ideas that you're learning from me and from the philosophers and the texts and that we're studying. Also so that you can listen to your neighbor and hear what they're saying, right? And accurately get a good reflection of whatever it is they're trying to say. If you're distracted, right? If your mind is distracted and turbulent because you're upset, because you're thinking about, being left unopened or something like that in Snapchat, right? Or why aren't they responding to my DMs or something like that, right? If you're bothered by something, if you had a bad breakup and you're going through something in your life, right, then that can cause a lot of turbulence in your mind and it can prohibit us from learning, right? And from hearing our neighbors accurately and reflecting their thoughts and our own thinking, right? So we have to have a clearness, a tranquility of mind. If our mind are turbulent, right? If I were to throw a water into the pond, throw a rock into the pond, right? Then that upsets the tranquility, it disturbs the surface. So then with those ripples, it distorts the image that's being reflected from the trees and from the sky and everything, right? So those turbulent waters, we've got to have a peaceful mind and a tranquility in our minds so that we can think clearly and hear and listen to our neighbor and understand precisely as best as we can what they're saying, right? Not what we think they are saying or what we want them to say, but what they are actually saying. Only then can we reflect the ideas of others in the way that the still waters of the pond do, right? So first Shanti is that peacefulness or tranquility of our bodies, right? Second is that peacefulness or tranquility of our minds. Third Shanti is more emotional, spiritual, right? A Shanti, a peace in our hearts, right? Let us be open to learning things from our neighbors. Let us regard learning from our neighbors, learning from these ancient voices of the past, like Plato and Socrates and Shankara and the Buddha and all these great philosophers that we'll be studying in this semester. Let us be open to learning from them, right? That's an act of love. Philosophy, again, is the love of wisdom. And so let's be passionate about that and let us be filled with an openness of heart, right? So that we can receive these thoughts and be open to them spiritually and emotionally, right? So hopefully you can see why I begin this course and all of my philosophy courses with this mantra from the Taittiriya Upanishads, because it really is, right? We've got to approach philosophy in the right way. We've got to approach it not as some task that we're doing or something that we've got to do to check off some box or to get some credential or something like that, right? But instead, the philosophy needs to be a true love of wisdom. It needs to be an endeavor that we go in with an open heart, with an open mind, and with an openness to our neighbor, right? It's an endeavor that we can only do Saha, together. Together, let us be nourished by what we're learning. Together, let us be protected by what we're learning. Together, let us heroically use this knowledge and wisdom to transform the world around us. Together, let our learning be filled with tejas and vadi and tamas, with light and joy and passion, right? Let there not be any enmity or hostility, bad words or tension between us, but instead let our minds, bodies, and souls and hearts be open to one another, be filled with a tranquility and a peace that is conducive to true learning of philosophy. I look forward to meeting each one of you and getting to know each of you throughout this course. And with that, we'll move on. Namaste.